Hi, Emilie.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's Wellbeing webinar. I'm really happy to be here as part of Google Africa's work with Women Will to be sharing tonight's webinar. And this is part of the Career Masterclass series. So hopefully you joined our webinar last week. So today we're going to talk about wellbeing resilience and how to be a corporate athlete. We think of athletes as sports people who achieve the highest echelons in sports, but actually, when it comes to our careers, we don't take care of ourselves in the same way that athletes do, and we should do, because quite frankly, having a career these days is a marathon, not a sprint. So think of it this way, you're not going to have a great career for 1 year and then retire for the rest of your life. I mean, you might do, that's the dream, but actually you're going to have a career that spans decades. So what we're going to teach you in today's Wellbeing webinar is all about the fundamentals to good health and mental resilience so that you can have a long and healthy, happy career. My name's Emilie West and I'm a wellbeing expert, I'm a coach and I'm a trainer with Career Masterclass. My own experience of wellbeing and why I'm talking to you this evening about being a corporate athlete is because I started a career in investment banking straight out of university, full of enthusiasm. I worked 12-hour days, I partied a lot, I went to the gym a lot, I did not sleep a lot. And at the end of 4 years, I suffered from burnout. Now, burnout, fatigue, chronic fatigue syndrome, whatever you call it, I had an exhaustion where I suddenly couldn't work. So I know firsthand what happens if you don't take care of yourself. If you don't take care of your physical and mental health, you can't have a really long, fulfilling career if you can't work. That was a very stressful time for me. And the doctors at the time said, you need to work less, exercise less. Here's some antidepressants you can take. And I said, no, there's got to be a better answer. And we're going to talk about the growth mindset later, but I didn't know that at that point I was displaying the growth mindset of saying, I am not putting up with this situation. I am going to take charge and take care of my health. I went to see a nutritional therapist. She taught me how to take care of myself and I recovered. And I went on to have a fantastic 14-year career in investment banking. And my last job was head of leadership for NatWest Markets. So I went on to have a great career because I took care of my health. So the reason I'm speaking to you all this evening from a very hot, sticky Greenwich, I don't know if it's hot where you all are, where you're watching from, but let me tell you, we're having a bit of a heat wave here. The reason I'm sharing my story with you is I don't want what happened to me to happen to you. I want you to take care of your mental and physical well-being so it doesn't get in the way of your work. In fact, it supercharges your work. It makes you more productive, more creative, more energized, so you can have a super successful career. So that's what I'm going to share with you. But just remember this is a marathon. This is an endurance event. Your career needs you to pace yourself. This is not a sprint. So you need to treat yourself like an endurance athlete and you need to take care of yourself like that because you want to have a long and productive career. And I'm going to show you how in tonight's webinar. So we're going to share some slides with you. We're also going to send everybody who's registered a fantastic workbook that goes through everything I'm talking about and gives you exercises. So I'm giving you all homework. I'm saying to you this evening, take responsibility for your own well-being, whether that's physical, whether that's mental. We're giving you the tools to do it, but you need to take responsibility and take care of yourself. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up the slides for this evening. Here we go. And obviously I've started with my own personal story, which is one of fatigue. It's one of actually not being well. But I actually want to start with some really, really positive news that you are built for this. That we are the only species on the planet who's built for these careers that we have, who has the ability to adapt the way we can, to be creative. I mean, look at the world we've built around us. I'm not particularly amazing with technology, so I can't even get my head around what has had to happen this evening for me to be speaking to those of you in Nigeria or South Africa through the power of YouTube and Zoom and the internet. Think how incredible that is that we did that. And that is why Homo sapiens, the human species that we are, is around today. Because actually 40,000 years ago, we had some competitors. We weren't the only human species on the planet. And the reason that we survived and the others didn't is that we were the most adaptable and the most resilient. Just think about that. It's like Game of Thrones, where it's like these films where someone triumphs at the end. The human species triumphed. We beat everybody else in the competition because we're so resilient. So the next time that you're feeling like you can't cope, like this is too much, that you've just run out of steam, remember, you are the most resilient species. So we look at what's happening now in lockdown, the way people are adapting, the way people are coping with the COVID pandemic. We are so incredibly adaptable. So I'm promising you are built for this. You can have the most amazing career, but you still have to take care of yourself. You can't just run yourself ragged by overworking, letting yourself get stressed out, not eating properly. We've all done it, not sleeping properly, not taking care of yourself. That's not responsible. That won't help you win the corporate game. That won't help you succeed in your career, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a creative, whether you're in a bank. You are built for this, but you need to take care of yourself. And I am here this evening to share what I've learned as a nutritional therapist, because once I was inspired with my own health, I went and studied health to really understand everything that's going on. And we're going to share with you this evening 4 pillars of well-being. So just 4 simple areas to think about in your life. And I'm really going to make you stop and think about how you're doing in each of these areas. So the first one is your physical health. Right? Our body is incredible. I can't even understand how incredible it is that it carries us everywhere we want to go. All the biochemical processes happening in your body right now that mean you have energy, that mean your brain is working, that mean you can listen to what I'm saying, the cells in your ears. It's so incredible what the body does. We don't even understand it, but we do know that the body you have now is a product of the combination of your DNA, what you've eaten and drunk in the last 7 years, and how well you've taken care of yourself. So you need to take care of this body, or you may end up where I did, which was that I had to basically stay in bed for a month because my body couldn't cope. So you need to take care of it, or it can be very limiting on your career. And we used to just think of our bodies when it came to health, but now we've become much more aware of our minds. You need to take care of your mental health to be resilient. It's 50% of your well-being. You know, they did a survey here in the UK, and they found out that 50% of people times off work was because they were stressed, not because they had a cold or a stomach bug. It was stress. So you need to take care of your physical well-being and your mental well-being. And if you neglect one of them, the other's not going to save you. You need both of them. The third pillar is emotional expression. This isn't often talked about when people talk about the corporate sphere or being resilient, but it's really important, and it can trip us up, because the fact is we are emotional beings. We're not robots. We're meant to feel things. How many times have you been at work and had an emotional reaction and then thought, oh, I've just got to hold this in. I just can't show my emotion. But that's not natural. We are emotional. So I'm going to share with you, how do you handle that? How do you handle your emotions so that you're supporting yourself, but it's also supportive for your career? It doesn't trip you up. And the final piece, community. And that's why it's wonderful to be talking to Women Will, which is a fantastic community organization. To have you all together, even though we're together virtually, is fantastic, because we are designed to live in groups. We're designed to have people support us. Think about it. Our ancestors would be in tribes, and somebody would go and forage for berries, and someone would go and hunt the animals, and someone would take care of the fire, and someone would take care of the kids, and someone would build the camp. It just wasn't a one-man job. We're meant to be in the tribe. And now we're in this digital era. Maybe the work that you do, you can do it all on your laptop, all on your own at home. But I'm telling you, you're not meant to be isolated like that. We need to understand why we need to live in groups and how we build a community that really supports us and supports our careers. So these are the 4 pillars we're going to cover. We're going to go through all of them, and we're going to make sure that we've got probably about 15 minutes time at the end for questions. So if you have any questions, I think you can just put them in the comments box as we're going through, and you can ask questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions about physical health, mental health, well-being, resilience, energy, exercise, anything you want to ask me, I'm here to answer it. So let's get started with number 1. Actually, I've tripped myself up there. Let's start with your action. Homework number 1. At the end of each week, I want you to give yourself a score out of 10 for each of the pillars. This is a really good way of having a barometer of how you are. It's like checking the fuel tank in your car. Put a reminder in your phone now that every week you're just going to check yourself on these 4 elements. Think about it now. Physical health. Give yourself a score out of 10. Are you feeling good this week? Are you feeling energized? Have you slept well? Have you exercised? Great. Give yourself a high score. Mental well-being. I know a lot of people are having some mental struggles at the moment. They're finding the situation we're in very challenging. If your brain is overactive right now, if you're thinking all the time, if you're feeling a bit stressed or anxious, maybe your score's a bit lower. If you're feeling really zen and calm and everything's in control and you're not overthinking, give yourself a high score. Emotionally, how are you feeling? Are you feeling pretty stable? Maybe little ups and downs, but pretty stable. Or are your emotions just like this every day? You don't know what you're going to wake up to. You don't know how you're going to react to anything. Then give yourself a lower score there. And finally, community. How much time have you spent in community? Do you feel like your community is supportive of you? Are you getting positive energy from them? Do you have the right mentors? Are you connecting with people? So I want you to do that every week. Just do a check-in. I do a check-in. And it reminds me, I did a check-in last week where physically I didn't feel great. And I looked at what I'd been doing and I thought, I've been going to bed late and I've not been eating well. Is it a wonder that I don't have as much energy? So this week, healthy diet, lots of exercise, and now I'm feeling much better. So let's get started with physical health. This is often what we think of when we think of the word well-being, but it's not often what we think of when we think of our careers necessarily, because we might think that our careers are all to do with how we're thinking. But think about that. That's not true. It's not all about what's in the mind. Actually, the energy we get day to day to do our jobs, a lot of it comes from the body. It comes from the food we're eating. It comes from how we slept and taking care of ourselves. If your body's well, your brain works better. And if you've ever had one of those days where you feel physically really lethargic, you don't do your best work, do you? So physical health is really important for you to really do well in your career. That's why I want you to think like an athlete, because athletes, one of the number one things they're obsessed with is their diet and exercise program. In fact, I was speaking with a Paralympian last week, and I'll probably talk a bit more about that later. And he was telling me about his crazy diet he has to follow because he has to eat like 6,000, 7,000 calories a day. But his fuel is so important for him because it fuels his performance. So what is the best fuel for you if you're a corporate athlete? If you're not a professional athlete, if you're a professional athlete, go to a professional nutritional therapist who's going to help you with that. But if you're a corporate athlete, I can give you the answers right here. And the number one answer is water. Okay, I'm going to tell you something and you'll think, Emilie, I know this. I know I should drink water. Everyone says it. But you really do need to drink water. It massively impacts your brain function. Your brain needs water to produce energy to think. Think of it like powering a train. This is the fuel. So you need to drink 2 to 3 liters of water a day. And if you've heard this a few times, but you've not done it, you need a new strategy. My favorite strategy is just to have on my desk, just have like a 500 ml beaker. And then I make sure I drink this. So I drink this before breakfast. Then I have my breakfast. If I get to lunch and I haven't drunk enough water, I drink this again. So I have this 4 times a day and that keeps me hydrated. Next time you're feeling a bit tired and a bit hungry at the same time, that's often a sign you're dehydrated. Have a drink of water before you go and grab a snack. So water's number one. Now you can think about food. So always get hydrated first. We can go longer without food than we can water. So get hydrated. Number 2, what food should you eat? Well, again, I'm going to tell you a lot of things that you probably already know, but let me tell you where I know it from. National Geographic have done the most amazing research. They went around the world and they found the people who lived the longest. They found the people who lived way longer than everybody else. And they found they lived in these little zones that they called blue zones. And there's one in Japan, and there's one in Costa Rica, and there's one in Greece, and there's a few around the world. And if you visit these places, it's incredible because the people there, they live to 90, 100. That's normal. That's standard that they live that long. And they're healthy. They're still cycling. They're still gardening. They're still reading the paper. They're still chatting with their friends. They're still dancing, and they're 90, they're 100. So they started researching, what are the secrets? Why do these people live so long? And they studied their diets, and that's the human diet. That's the diet we're meant to eat because it keeps us alive a really long time. So if you think about in nature, every animal has a diet. The lion has a diet. It eats 10 pounds of meat a day. Try giving a lion a vegetable, see what happens. The hippo eats grass all day, but the hippo's still really strong. The hippo doesn't eat meat because the hippo's not meant to. The hippo has its own diet. And we as humans, we have a human diet. And when you're next eating some really processed food, I want you to look at it and think, is this really part of the human diet? Because it isn't. It isn't what you should be eating. It's not what your great grandparents were eating. It's processed food. So the top fuel to energize you and keep you living a long and healthy life is whole foods, foods closest to how you would find them in nature. Vegetables, full of fiber and nutrients and vitamins and water. Fruits, whole grains, pulses. I love my pinto beans, my black beans, my kidney beans. Well, in all the blue zones of the world, they eat absolutely loads of beans. They're eating tons of hummus. And they live a really long time because it's really fiber rich. It's protective against colon cancer. It's full of nutrients. They do eat protein. They don't eat like the hippo. They're not totally plant-based. They eat a lot of plant foods, but they do eat protein, but just not as much as a lot of us do. They eat the size of the palm of their hand every day. So really not that much. And they're having organic eggs or fish or white meat, but it's all organic. So actually, it's not very fun. It's not glamorous. There's not some clever diet. The top fuel is whole foods. And trust me, if you eat that way over your life, that's how you will have a long and healthy life, but also you'll have more stable energy. Because often when we're at work and we're tired, we reach for the worst fuel. We go for the sugary chocolate bar or the refined flour pastry or the donut. We might feel like a treat and we go for a cheeseburger and we have all this red meat and cheese, and it actually slows us down. So I'm not saying don't ever have those foods. I'm saying save them for a treat. I like to have a treat day on a Sunday, and I really enjoy having some naughty food on that day. But most of the time I'm trying to eat a whole food diet. And believe me, it will give you more energy. And in fact, following this diet was absolutely key to my own recovery. So I really want you to take that away. We have given you an example before and after diet sheet of one of my clients in the handout, and that's really going to bring to life how do you do this in practice. Now, other things you might want to think about if you really have a busy job is you might want to top up with some supplements. And certainly when I had a really hectic job and I used to work 12, 14 hours, I would definitely be taking every day a multivitamin, some extra vitamin C for my immune system, some B vitamins for stress. So don't be afraid to supplement with some extra nutrients. And if you're getting regular colds or you're regularly getting ill or you're feeling really tired, it might be a sign that you need some extra nutrients as well. So we've covered water, we've covered food. You also need oxygen. Now you're thinking, seriously, is Emilie really telling me that I need to focus on getting oxygen? Because I breathe automatically. Yes, you do breathe automatically, but you might not breathe in the right way. A lot of us are breathing, chest breathing, just breathing up here. And when you're stressed, when you're stressed and you get tense, you start tensing up, you chest breathe. But also if you're working on a laptop, so say I'm working on my laptop, I'm here at my kitchen table. If I lean down, I close my lungs and I shut down the amount that I can breathe. All of this impacts how much oxygen goes to your brain. Now, oxygen massively impacts your brain function. Think about when people climb mountains and their oxygen levels get really low. If you've ever watched a film about people climbing Everest and they do this test where they try and get them to do basic maths. And as they get higher and the oxygen levels get lower, they ask them a question like 2 + 2. And these people who are super intelligent just cannot answer that question. Now that's really extreme. That won't happen to you. But the fact is, we need to oxygenate the brain so that the brain functions really well. If you want to make good decisions, if you want to be creative, if you want to think quickly on your feet, you need water, food, and oxygen. So how do you make sure you breathe properly? You don't have to obsess about this, but 2-3 times a day, I just want you to do this basic stretch. I always start my day with this as well. And this stretch just helps you breathe properly. And all you do is you raise your arms above your head and you breathe in. Just do it now. Deep breath in, hold it, and deep breath out. And raising your arms actually lifts your ribcage. You can probably feel that lift up. So try it again. Deep breath in, hold it, and deep breath out. And again, deep breath in, hold it, deep breath out. How do you feel? Just 3 deep breaths just calms you right down. It doesn't just bring oxygen to the brain, it calms your nervous system. So you can use that when you're feeling stressed. You can just use that as a good desk stretch. It actually repositions your shoulders back where they should be instead of being hunched forward. It's just a really nice stretch to do. So just little tiny things like this actually can change your performance at work. Now, the next one, in talking about physical well-being, I have to talk about exercise. Our bodies are meant to move. Our bodies were not designed to sit at a desk with a laptop. Think how recent that kind of work is. Now, some of you may have work where you're more on your feet and you're moving around every day, and that's actually better for you. But if you have a job where you don't move a lot, it's really important that you take your exercise every day and that you move around. And this is for several reasons. One of them is if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use your muscles, you lose them. If you don't move your joints, they deteriorate. You'll get joint pain when you're older. You will lose your mobility much later in life. So what you're doing now impacts how your health will be in 20, 30 years' time. Think about that. So if you're not exercising regularly now, in 20, 30 years' time, you might have joint pain, you might have muscle problems, you might get easy breaks. So I want you to think about it now. The other major reason is immunity. Now, our cardiovascular system that pumps blood around the body has a pump, right? Has the heart, which is amazing. The heart's just there pumping away. Your heart right now is just pumping away, keeping you alive. Isn't that something? But your immune system, which is another whole different set of tubes running around your body that you might not realize you had, has no pump. It relies on your muscle movement to pump the liquid around. So when I move my arm like this, the muscles are squeezing the lymph vessels and the lymph glands, and they're pumping around my body things like macrophages. They're pumping around the nutrients I need for immunity, and they go around my body, and wherever there's any illness or disease, those cells are keeping me safe. So your immune system does not work if you don't move. It's incredibly important to move. Even if you're not feeling very well, if you can just go for a little walk for half an hour, that's really important. Or just have a massage. If you're really not well, when I was really not well and I couldn't exercise a lot, just having a massage does it for you. But if you're feeling good, I want you to move for 30 minutes every day. Now, feel free to ask me questions at the end about the best forms of exercise, because there's obviously all different ideas about HIIT training, kettlebell training, running versus weights, all great stuff. But for the purpose of this exercise, I don't mind what you do as long as you get sweaty. If you're not sweating, you're not exercising. Put some effort in. Get sweaty for 30 minutes a day, and that's what your lymph system needs. That's what your health needs, and it increases your energy. And this is all connected to mental health as well, because you feel better. How many times have you dragged yourself to the gym or made yourself exercise when you really didn't want to, and afterwards you felt so much better? It actually produces endorphins and happy hormones. So your physical and mental health, they're totally linked together, and movement is really important for both. And then the final one is sleep. Again, you think, oh, Emilie's telling me all the things I know, but I don't do. But I promise you, just having a couple of early nights a week massively improves your brain function, really improves how you perform at work, and it makes you a happier person. We've all experienced where we've been really tired and the next day we don't sleep well and the next day we're cranky, right? That happens, or a colleague's done it, or our children have done it. We need sleep to feel better emotionally, but also we need sleep to repair. If you cut yourself, if you scratched yourself today, little scratch, tomorrow it would have healed. You might have a little mark, give it a few more days and it's gone. That is the magic. That is our body repairing itself. And when does most of that repair happen? When you're sleeping. And when does most of that happen when you're sleeping? Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in the first part of sleep, in the sleep that's mainly deep sleep. So if you're not going to bed early enough, your body doesn't have a chance to repair. The next day it's not as refreshed, it's not ready to go. So if you want to be a corporate athlete, if you want to survive for the marathon, you need to make sleep a priority. I mean, athletes, they'll sleep for 12 hours a day. They'll have an 8-hour sleep, then they'll have a 4-hour sleep during the day because they really want to be in top performance. I don't think there are many jobs where you're allowed a 4-hour sleep in the middle of the day. But the point is, sleep is really important for performance. And one of the easiest ways to get into good sleep habits is to get yourself a sleep tracker. I've got myself a Fitbit here, but you can get an app on your phone. You can use an Apple Watch, whatever it is, whatever device you like. Having a sleep tracker reminds you to sleep better, but it also, when you see the results, you'll realize, okay, when I go to bed earlier, I sleep better. When I don't have caffeine in the afternoon, I sleep better. If I haven't had alcohol the day before, I sleep better. You'll start to realize if I don't watch a lot of TV later, I sleep better. And it helps you get into really good sleep habits. So these are the basics for physical health. As I said, I want you to have a little check-in with yourself every week to see where you are on each pillar. And here are just some signs for your physical health where it might need some attention. So if you've suddenly gained a lot of weight or lost a lot of weight, that can be a sign that something's going on inside. Skin is a great way of checking your health, okay? So if your skin is suddenly getting dry or itchy, or you're getting eczema, or you're getting breakouts and you didn't used to, that's not just telling you that there's an issue with your skin, there's an issue on the inside. The skin is just like the dashboard. So pay attention to your skin and how you're looking. That's a sign of how well you are. Other things like digestive issues, if you're suddenly getting cramps when you didn't used to, or indigestion, if you're not sleeping well, if your energy suddenly drops, which happened to me, and if you feel hungry all the time. So when I had chronic fatigue, one of the things was I was just constantly hungry. I mean, every hour I had to eat. I was worse than a newborn baby. And the reason was that I'd worn my body out so much that it couldn't burn any fat. It could only make energy out of carbs that I had just eaten just then. So if you're hungry all the time, that can be a sign that there's something going on with your physical health. Another great reason to exercise is it's a very good indicator of how well you are. So if you do like to exercise, whether it's going to a dance class, whether it's regularly running or lifting weights, just pay attention to how it feels. And if suddenly you find it much harder than normal, or you can't lift the same weights as normal, that might be a sign that you're a bit worn down. Maybe you just need to take a break for a couple of days. If that goes on for a long time, then maybe you need to go and see your doctor. And certainly the other day I was cycling and I realized it was much harder than usual. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a day off tomorrow. I'm going to rest. I'm going to eat well. And you know what, I was fine after that. As I said, if you get ill regularly, your immune system might not be working properly. If you get headaches, that can be detox, that can be stress. If your muscles are sore, if you get aches and pains, these are all signs that your physical well-being might need attention, and you might need to look at your diet. You might need to see a doctor or a nutritional therapist. But don't ignore these signs, because I ignored them and then I ended up really unwell. So I don't want you to get to that point. So your action for the physical health pillar is to plan your water, food, and exercise for next week. Say what time you're going to go to bed, what exercise are you going to do every day, when are you going to drink your water. And this is all in the workbook, so we've made it super easy for you. So that's physical health. Incredibly important, because it not only takes care of how healthy you are, it affects your mental health, it affects your mental performance at work. And if you're physically unwell and you can't go to work, that massively impacts your career. So now let's talk about mental health. Fortunately, people are talking about mental health more and more. It didn't used to be so talked about when I had chronic fatigue. And in fact, part of my chronic fatigue was that I'd worked too hard and not eaten well and not slept well enough. But also part of it was I was just really anxious. I just was running these thoughts all the time. I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing a good job at work, or I'm going to get fired. Have you ever had those thoughts? Have you ever, something's changed at work, or you're going for a promotion, or you're trying to launch a business, and suddenly what happens? Your brain starts playing all these negative thoughts. Now, first of all, be kind to yourself. There's a reason that we do that. It's because our mind is programmed to look for risk. Why is it programmed to look for risk? Well, your ancestors lived in a much more dangerous world than we do, and they were under threat, and their lives were in danger every single day. And so their minds were designed to just spot just the tiniest danger in the corner of peripheral vision. You were designed to spot every single danger and process it and just be aware of all the risk. So now whenever we make a decision, or we change something, or we see something, our brain kicks in and just starts running the risks. It's like, well, here's the risk. This could happen. This could go wrong. This could go wrong. I'm sure you've all experienced this at some point. So when that happens, I want you to just go, okay, I can see my brain's looking for the risk. Listen to it. Are those risks true? What do I need to do about them? But then I want you to choose to go, okay, now I've done the risk thinking. Now I need to do some positive thinking, because you need to balance out your thoughts. If you want to have a resilient mind, if you want to be able to keep going in the face of challenge, and let's face it, if you've got a career and you're really going for some goals, you will have challenges. So if you want to keep going, you're not going to be able to do that if you're just listening to the negative. It's like a radio station. If I offered you two radio stations, if I offered you one where they only played depressing, sad music, They only told you the really bad news that had happened in the day. And they repeatedly said messages like, you're worthless, you're not doing a good job, nobody likes you. Or I offered you another radio station where they only play happy music. And I recommend you do this, by the way. I have a playlist on my phone called Happy Music. And if I'm feeling a bit down, I just listen to it. They only play happy music. They only read positive news to you. And every day they say messages like, you're doing a fantastic job, you're really valued, you're brilliant. Which radio station would you choose to listen to? You would listen to the positive one. And if you listen to the negative one, you would feel down. And when you feel down, what happens? Your energy drops and you feel defeated and you give up. So you need to start paying attention to which radio station you're playing. And if you catch your mind going through lots of risks, just acknowledge them, maybe even write them down, and then say, right, that's enough. I'm going to listen to the positive station. I'm going to tell myself some positive things. Be grateful for yourself. Say, you know what? I'm actually really good at my job. I'm actually grateful for that project I did a good job on. I actually am appreciated by my colleagues. And just back yourself up with some positive thoughts. Now, it's not just the fact that we look for risk and our brains are problem solving all the time and overthinking that we have to deal with to be mentally resilient. We also just need a break. We're not actually meant to be thinking as much as we are now, because we're meant to be out in nature and being much more present to our environment. But the modern world, with the onslaught of emails, of notifications on your phone, of social media, right? The number of interruptions, your friends are WhatsApping you. Who's gone to your phone and you've got like 100 WhatsApps? It's too much. And basically our brains are just being bombarded with information. We're drowning in it. And it's tiring. But remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You need your brain to be fresh. You need it to be rested. So you need to give yourself a little break every day. And, you know, it might just be, I'll talk about the power down in a minute that I recommend every day. But just this week, I had an afternoon where I turned my phone and my laptop off for 3 hours. And for some of you, that might make you quite anxious, but that's good. You should try doing it. You need to give your brain some space. So, as I mentioned, you need to have time off. And the way I like to do it is at the end of every day, I do a little power down. Now, what's a power down? Think about it like this. When you're using your computer and you have too many windows open, maybe you don't do this, but I'm so bad. I have lots of different internet pages going of things I'm reading or shopping I'm looking at. Then I've got my email, and then I've got another email account, and then I've got some Word documents, and I have too much going on. And after a while, my poor little laptop, it overheats and it does the little spinny wheel. And what do you have to do when the computer totally overheats? You just have to turn it off. You have to turn it off, let it cool down, and then you turn it on and it comes back up again. So that's what a power down is. And you need to do it for your mind every day. So at the end of the working day, when I've finished work, I just shut the lid of the laptop to tell myself I've finished. That's the boundary. Work is done. Now we're in relaxation time. I shut the lid and I sit down in a comfy chair just opposite me now. And I just don't think about anything for 10 minutes. I just relax. And if you're someone who likes to meditate, this is the perfect time to meditate at the end of the working day to get your brain to calm down. You don't have to be into meditation. If you want to get into it, the Calm app is a really good way of doing it. You can just sit there and just look out the window. You can just sit there and think about a holiday you went on. Think about it now. Think about one time when you went away and you just remember being really relaxed. Maybe you were just sat on your own in an afternoon reading a book or lying on a beach, and you just felt really, really relaxed. And just sit there for 10 minutes and just think about that time that you felt really relaxed. Don't read your phone, don't read the newspaper, don't have your laptop on. Just sit there, nothing going on, no one talking to you. And give that brain that little break, and you'll find your energy drops and you start to feel a little bit tired. And then after a while, you'll realize your energy comes back up again. That's the power of meditation. So I want you to have a little power down every week. So as we said, mental health is really important. And one of the biggest factors in it is what you're thinking. This is really about mindset. When you hear people talk about mindset, they're talking about what are the words that are passing through your head. So I want you to balance the positive and the negative. If you're looking for risk, I want you to balance it with positive thoughts. But I also want you to start developing a growth mindset. Now, there's a brilliant book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, where she goes in detail into what a growth mindset is. And I really recommend everyone reads that book. But I'm just going to cover the real fundamentals of it. Now, Carol Dweck also in her research, she found that the number one indicator of how successful someone was in their career was not their background, was not even their education. It was whether or not they had a growth mindset. Isn't that incredible? That was the predeterminant in how well they did. So what's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset? Well, imagine something's gone wrong. So this happens to all of us. You know, I've had it. I was once running a project. I was really enthusiastic about it. And then they pulled the budget. They said, that's it, there's no budget. So the person with the fixed mindset just gets angry. They're just like, well, that's just so annoying. And that happened before. And why are they just trying to stop me? And I should just give up. I just shouldn't try anymore. Like, this is just so maddening. And they don't appreciate my efforts. And you would just get down and you would just believe that it was all someone else's responsibility. And you would just get down and feel bad about it. And you might even say, oh, I'm not going to try that hard next time. The person with the growth mindset takes a totally different attitude. The person with the growth mindset, by the way, you can let yourself get annoyed at first. We're going to talk about that next. We're going to talk about how do you deal with the emotions when someone kills off your project at work, when someone tells you have a bad idea, when someone's rude to you at work. How do you deal with that? But the growth mindset, you let yourself be upset for a minute, and then the growth mindset is, right, what am I going to do about this? Here's the challenge. What am I going to do? How am I going to take responsibility? And if the challenge is passed, if it's kind of, there's nothing to do, there's no action, the growth mindset is like, how can I learn from this experience? Could I have handled it differently? Can I learn for the next project? Someone with a growth mindset also looks for inspiration. Instead of feeling down, you'd look up and say, well, who's overcome this challenge before me? Can I do what they did? I mean, something that I think is really great for people in their careers is to read biographies or watch video interviews of people in business who inspire you. And let me tell you, they will all tell you that they had some challenge. They will talk about the challenges they had and how they overcame them. And that's how you build a growth mindset. You have a little bump in the road and you overcome it. And it gives you confidence that the next time you have a challenge, you can overcome that, and the next time and the next time. That was totally my experience. I had a 14-year career in investment banking. I went on to have jobs I never thought I would have. I never dreamt of having. But one of the reasons I got promoted was I had this very positive attitude. If something bad happened, I didn't get stuck in it and complain to everybody. I thought, right, what can I do about this? How can I get more influence so this doesn't happen again? Or they've taken the budget away. Can I do this for free? That's the kind of growth mindset. And one of the ways to develop it is to set yourself some challenges. So maybe you have a challenge at work right now. See how positively you can approach it. See how creatively you can come up with how you can deal with it. If you don't have a challenge, maybe set a personal one. Maybe set a sports challenge, or maybe set yourself the challenge to learn a new instrument or to do a performance in front of your friends, which is pretty nerve-wracking. Set yourself a challenge of something difficult to do. And when you achieve it, it gives you confidence. That makes you more mentally tough because you realize, I did that, I can do the next one. And I mentioned earlier that I was interviewing Aaron Phipps, a Paralympian, last week. And Aaron is the most incredible person. He lost his legs from the knee down when he was 15 unexpectedly. Can you think of many more challenges to face as a child? To be a 15-year-old and suddenly realize you're not going to walk again. You know, the whole life that you imagine you're going to have just changed. It's not going to be the way you thought. And Aaron, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm just under Emilie West on LinkedIn, and I'll happily share with you the link of the interview with Aaron. Aaron's story is incredible, and he overcame it and ended up in the Paralympics because he just took one challenge at a time. And every time he took a challenge on, like the first challenge was learning to walk again at 15. You know, the next challenge was his first wheelchair race. He didn't try and win, he just wanted to finish it. Every time he did that challenge, he got more and more confident in his abilities until now he takes on the most ridiculous challenges because he's just so confident and he just wants to keep pushing himself. That's a growth mindset. I want to encourage all of you to really, when things get tough at work, don't let yourself get down. Think about how can you develop a growth mindset. So here's some signs that your mental health might need a bit of attention. These might be signs that your mindset needs a shift, or you're overthinking things and it's wearing you out. You might find it hard to relax. You might find it hard to put your phone away and not pay attention to it. You might get frustrated easily. Are you snapping at people? Are you finding it hard to concentrate? Do you keep jumping between tasks? But if you have something you have to just look at for 20 minutes, you can't do it. That's very normal now because we're so interrupted by our phones. But think about, okay, so maybe I need to have that power down every day so I can get better at focusing. Feeling tired is an interesting one because we often think feeling tired is a physical thing, but you can be mentally exhausted. You know, if you ever come out of a conversation with someone where they just said lots of negative things to you, you didn't do any exercise in that conversation, but afterwards you just felt really tired. So you can have mental exhaustion as well. If you find that you've got a very negative outlook at the moment, that you're seeing not just work, but everything is negative, you're not happy with your friends, you're not happy with your family, you're not happy with your job, that's a sign that your mindset might need a shift. And finally, paranoia. If you're starting to feel suspicious of everybody, if you think everybody's out to get you, if you think people are trying to sabotage you at work, again, that can be a sign that you just need a bit of a break mentally from it all. It's certainly true that at some point in your career, someone may try and sabotage you. Maybe it's happened to you already. It certainly happened to me. So to be aware of that, that's possible. But if you're thinking those thoughts all the time, you probably need to relax and take a bit of a break. So what's your action for your mental health? This is simple. I want you to just take your phone out, your diary out, and just schedule at the end of your working day, whether you finish at 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever time, I want you to just set an alarm in your phone to remind you to sit down for 10 minutes and have your power down. If you've got kids at home, this can be challenging. You might need to go and sit in the living room and just shut the door. Some people just do it. Some of my clients do it on the way home. If they're driving home, they just sit in the driveway for 10 minutes because that's the only place that's quiet in their house. But whatever it is, find a way to have 10 minutes of quiet a day. So we've talked about physical health and we've talked about mental health, and these are so key in having resilience and being able to be energized and productive at work. But we're going to cover the last two pillars now because they're still really important: emotional expression and community. Now, emotional expression is really important because if we bottle our emotions up, they come up later. And I think we do this too easily. I've done it a lot, where if you feel good things, you feel great. If you feel happiness, joy, you just love expressing it. You love telling your friends how great everything is. But when you feel sad, you just try and stuff it down. You just try not to express it, right? So you're just trying to hold it in. And you maybe try and distract yourself with some television or some shopping or some chocolate or some alcohol. And you're just trying to ignore it and just not deal with the negative emotion. And what happens if you don't do that is they come up inappropriately. Have you ever had that? Someone said something and it just triggers it. It's like the volcano goes off. Or you just start crying, but you don't know why you're crying. It's because your emotions have all been stuffed in there and they just popped out. So it's really important to learn how to handle your emotions so that they don't trip you up. And the other thing is that if you hold them in, it actually can really impact your physical health as well. So they found that people who hold in emotions, they can also get physical, ill health. You can get exhaustion like I did. So this is something that's really important, that you learn how to express your emotions in a healthy way. And it says feel, but don't act straight away. Because if you've ever worked with someone who just expresses their emotions all the time, that doesn't always help your career either. If someone annoys you at work and you just immediately let rip at them and you're just really angry, you might scare the people around you. You might make them quite wary of you. Or if you just suddenly start crying in the office, then afterwards you might think, oh gosh, what's everyone going to think about that? They're going to think I'm overly emotional. So I'm just going to teach you how to handle the more negative emotions in a way that's healthy and doesn't get in the way of your career. And the fact is, human beings are emotional. We're not robots. So give yourself a break. You're meant to feel sadness and anger and frustration. It's normal. Don't feel bad if you have negative emotions. You're meant to feel all of them. You wouldn't know what happiness was if you'd never had sadness. I just want you to learn how to express them in a healthy way, but it's all part of the experience. So what are you going to do next time you feel an emotion you don't like? And this is going to be your action for this section. Next time you have an emotion, sadness, frustration, whatever it is, first of all, if you're feeling uncomfortable, first of all, just try and name it. Just think, okay, what do I feel? Am I sad? No, that's not it. I think I'm a bit down. Okay, I'm down. That's it. I'm feeling a bit down. And then I want you to express it. So you can, first of all, you can just let yourself really feel down. Don't think, oh, right, snap, I've just got to be happy now. No, I want you to be like, okay, I'm going to be down. I'm going to be down for the next 10 minutes. You can even set an alarm. For 10 minutes, I'm just going to feel really down, like just feel really terrible about everything. And now I'm going to express it. So I might call a friend and say, you know what, I'm feeling really down. I might, if you're angry particularly, making a noise can help. You might just be like, just really frustrated. Just don't do that at your colleagues. Just go outside or go into the bathroom. Just like get the noise out. If you're at work and it's hard to express it because people will hear, then just write it down or just make a note in your phone. Just, if you're angry at someone, write a really angry note in your phone. Don't send it. It's not an email. Do not write this in an email and send it to anyone. Just make an angry note. I'm so mad at you. You're always doing this. It really frustrates me. But just express it. Get it out of your head into the world. And physically as well. If it's the end of the day and someone's really frustrated you, nothing like a kickboxing class or going for a hard run and just like really getting the frustration out in the exercise. So these are ways to experience and express the emotion, and then you can act. Here's the really interesting thing. Once you've experienced an emotion, just stop and think, how do I feel now? If I felt really down before, how do I feel now? And interestingly, the emotion won't be as strong because you've sat with it. You haven't tried to stuff it down. You felt it. So it's just really healthy in life. And then secondly, if you now need to act, if you now need to go and have a conversation with your boss and say, I felt like what you just did was inappropriate. Or if you need to go and speak to a colleague and actually say, actually, no, you can't have it your way. It needs to be this way. If you need to have a difficult conversation with someone, once you've expressed the emotion, you will do it from a much calmer place. You will have a much more powerful conversation. You will come across better because you were calmer. So emotional expression isn't just about your emotional health. It's also about being able to handle situations better at work. So your action is going to be, the next time you feel emotional, I want you to just try and feel the emotion for 10 minutes and express it in a healthy way before you act on it. Now, here are some of the signs that you need to take care of your emotions. If you're overwhelmed, if you're overreacting regularly, if you feel like you just run away from everything, like if you really regularly feeling like, I want to leave my job, I want to leave my family, I don't want to be here anymore, that's a sign that you're emotionally vulnerable. And if you're in this position where you only want to tell people the positive things, but you find it very hard to tell anyone you're not feeling good, that's also a sign that you need to take care of your emotional self. Because we all have this very delicate emotional center. And yes, as strong, ambitious women, we want to just go around and project that we're strong and we can do anything. And we can. That's the incredible thing. We can do anything. But that doesn't mean we have to not be emotional. That doesn't mean we can't feel our emotions. We need to also nurture that. We also need love in our lives. We need to go and seek out people who will give us affection and also nurture our vulnerable side. And if you get to the point where you're not sharing your vulnerability or emotions with anybody, that can be a bit unhealthy. And that might be a time where you want to just go and speak to a counselor or go and get some help somewhere. We'll talk about professional help. But I've had counseling at several points in my life where I had real challenges that were affecting me emotionally, and it really helped. So if you're struggling emotionally, reach out and get support. So we've covered physical health, eating the right food, drinking the right thing, exercising, taking care of your immune system. We've covered mental health. What are you thinking? Start paying attention to that. What's your mindset? Are you positive? How are you dealing with challenges? Can you overcome challenges? Can you take on a challenge? And we've talked about emotions, that you feel them, that it's normal and you should express them in a healthy way so that then you can deal with them in a more healthy way at work as well. And the final pillar is community. Now, all the research in the blue zones of the world, these places where people live the longest, you know what they found? They found that everyone came together as a community very regularly. Do you know when they did that? When they went to church. And actually, belonging to a church, whether you believe in God or not, extends your life. And do you know why that is? Because you're together with other people, and they found that when you're together with other people, you live longer and you stay healthier. And it's all to do with the tribe. We're meant to be around other people. And actually, if we're isolated, our body can start to shut down. Our body can start to not operate as well. They found that the elderly live longer if you surround them with younger children, with grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So if you've got grandparents, make sure that they're surrounded with young people regularly. It keeps them alive. It keeps them younger for longer. Now, how does this work in work? I'm not suggesting you take your toddlers to work. At work, you need a support community. You need genuine allies. You need people you can talk to for advice. You need to have a team of people who you can go to when you face a challenge, people you can learn from, mentors, sponsors. You need a support buddy. I call this a bitch buddy, but the support buddy is just someone that when you're really mad and you want to complain, They're the person where you can just message them and say, can we have a chat or can we have a coffee? And you can just go and complain to them, and they totally know what you're talking about because they've been there too, and they can complain about their stuff. You can just swap your complaints, and you're not boring your friends and family with it. You've just got someone who gets you and you can talk about that. So try and have someone at work or in your industry who you can share your grievances with, and they'll hear you and they'll understand you. Sponsors and mentors are also incredibly important. At Career Masterclass, we really, all of us instructors at Career Masterclass have massively benefited in our careers from sponsorship and mentorship. So we have a fantastic Career Masterclass on this, and really investing in people who are going to sponsor and mentor you is really important as well. So that's part of building a network of support people at work. And what's your support outside of work? Which friends give you good advice? You know, we've got some friends who they're great friends, but they give you terrible career advice, right? And you just know you shouldn't follow it. Whose advice can you trust? Who, when you hang out with them, gives you good energy? Who recharges your batteries? Do you have friends that when you hang out with them, actually they wear you out? Actually, they lower your energy. Okay, maybe you shouldn't hang out with them as much. But think about who outside of work is really there for you, who supports you, who makes you feel good. I mean, you can have mentors outside of work. Who inspires you outside of work? Who can you follow on social media? Who can you go to for advice? You know, people who are older than us have more experience. So they're good people to ask for advice, and they like mentoring. So build that community. And think about if you need professional support. If you're not well, maybe you need a nutritional therapist like I did. Maybe you need a good doctor. If you need help getting to exercise, do you need a personal trainer to kick your butt and make you do it? Do you need a coach to help with your career and your mindset? Work out what you need. Maybe you can't afford it all now, but just write out a wish list. It's in the workbook. Work out who you want in your dream team. Now, here are some signs that you might need to work on your community. And if you find that you don't have people you can naturally go to for support, or people aren't supportive, then that means you maybe need to find some new people for your community, and you need to basically find people who will be supportive and will make you feel positive. And also, if you're suffering with your physical or mental health or emotional health, reach out and get professional support as well. That's part of the community too. As I said, build your fantasy support team. It's all in the workbook. We've given you all the exercises we need. So that's everything I wanted to cover. We've covered the 4 pillars of health. We've given you 4 pieces of homework. And now what we want to do is we're going to answer your questions. So all you need to do is just post the questions into the chat, and I'll answer anything about physical health, mental health, my own career. How did I get here? Please feel free to share any of it. Oh, great. We've already got some questions. Thank you so much for everybody's lovely comments. Who's the name of the author for the book Growth Mindset? Carol Dweck, Dweck is her surname, and the book is very easily available. Okay, so what are some simple things you can do to relax when you're overwhelmed? Well, often when you're overwhelmed, you're overthinking. Yeah, your brain's like, I can't cope, I can't do this, I can't do that. 2 things. First of all, pick a simple, easy task to do. So if you're overwhelmed and you have to do some work, just pick a simple work task. But something like making a meal is a very meditative, relaxing thing to do, because it focuses the mind outside of all this mumbo jumbo that's going on, and you just focus on something else. Or interestingly, engaging the creative part of your brain takes you out of the thinking part and relaxes you. So paint something. I love it. I'm really not artistic, but just draw a bad portrait of a friend. Even send it to them. You'll make them laugh. Paint something, sew something, try and play a piece of music. And in fact, music is a very useful cue. So when I was talking to Aaron Phipps, the Paralympian, before we did the interview, he was explaining to me how they use music. Athletes, when they're listening to their music, they use music to change their emotion and change their energy all the time. So a very simple thing to do when you're feeling overwhelmed is to listen to music that relaxes you. And there's something called alpha wave music. Just look it up on whatever music platform you're using. Just look up alpha wave meditation music. And when you play that music, they've created it at a frequency that makes your mind relax. It's brilliant. I use it if I can't sleep. I use it if I'm super stressed. So really simple things you can do to relax when you're overwhelmed. Put some alpha wave music on and just make a sandwich, or just cook something, or just paint a picture, or just sketch something, or get one of those lovely coloring in books that are super relaxing. If your kids have got it, you can have it. Okay, next question. What are the best ways to deal with anxiety, especially when you're at work? And I think it's mostly at work. Most people that I coach feel the most anxiety when they're at work. So what are the best ways to deal with this? Well, first of all, taking a deep breath. You know, that breath exercise. Like if you're really starting to feel anxious, remove yourself from the situation. If you're at your desk and you start feel yourself panicking, getting stressed, remove yourself. Go outside in the sunshine, or just go in the bathroom. Just leave the situation. Do the 3 deep breaths. Those breaths actually slow down the nervous system. So go and do the 3 deep breaths. So these are just good ways to calm yourself. And then, this is where I said about then express the emotion. Then say, okay, well, what am I feeling? Okay, I'm anxious. Maybe think, well, what am I anxious about? Okay, now can I express that? Really have supportive friends. I've got a WhatsApp group with 2 friends that we can just put anything on. Whatever we're feeling, whenever we're frustrated, we put it on that chat and it really helps. So then you just express the anxiety and then you can go back to work. Now, if you're feeling really stressed and anxious, you might need to take a bit longer out. Things day to day, like things like doing yoga and meditation, are one of the best ways to reduce anxiety. There's also supplements you can take. There's an amazing herb called rhodiola. It's an adaptogenic herb. It helps you adapt to stress. And when I'm feeling really stressed, I take it. So there are also supplements you can take that really help with anxiety. But removing yourself from the situation and taking a time out, like we do it with kids. They take a time out. Just take a time out. Well, someone says, please, can I have a replay of the session? I think it will be available to watch again. So thank you so much. Brilliant. Yeah. If anyone wants any guidance in anything particular, feel free to just reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'll answer your questions. On getting a new job you never expected, how did you feel? Did you get imposter syndrome? Oh my goodness, let me tell you. I got offered to be head of fixed income research when I was 30, and it was very unexpected. And I was the youngest person to hold that job by about 15 years. And I took the job of someone who was much older than me. It was so surprising. But you see, this is where we have to have confidence in ourselves. I had big dreams, and I knew when I got offered that job that I had to say yes, because it would get me to achieve my goals. So I had no choice. I couldn't not do it. So I got offered the job and I said, yes, please. And then I went into the bathroom and I just went, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Honestly, I totally had imposter syndrome. But you know what's interesting? Most people have it. Even men have it. Most people have imposter syndrome at some point in their careers. A lot of the people who are like the big bosses, who you think they have everything together, they have it too. They're just good at hiding it. So I definitely had that. How did I get over it? So first of all, growth mindset. Take on a challenge and overcome it. I took that job on, and day by day, as I saw that I could do it, I built the confidence to realize I deserve this job. My boss could see I deserved the job. He gave it to me, but I had to get that confidence. So day by day, I overcame it. But the other thing is just be vulnerable and honest. I wasn't going to announce to the department, oh, I'm not sure I should have this job and be head of all of you, because I was suddenly head of 60 people. No, what did I do? I went to the person who had the job before me. And remember, it's got to be someone you can trust, but I trusted him. And I said, I'm really happy to have this new job, but I'm a bit scared about it. There's some things that might come up that I might not know how to handle. Can I come to you? And that's about community. I made sure I had people I could talk to help me. And he was so great. And he said, you come to me with anything that happens. I only think I went to him twice in that job because I actually was fine. As you said, it was an imposter syndrome. I could do it perfectly well. But knowing I had somebody to back me up to get advice helped me deal with the imposter syndrome, because I gave me the confidence that I had support somewhere else. So this is where community, we often forget it. If you build your community, it gives you confidence. Yeah, so we'll be sharing everything in the workbook. And if you just add me on LinkedIn, if anyone wants to get in direct contact with me, add me on LinkedIn. You can ask your questions there. So how do you build self-confidence? Well, as I said, the number one thing you do is you do things that you don't think you can do. Is this madness? You take the job that you don't think you can do. Or like Aaron did, or you enter the race that you don't think you can complete. Why do you do that? Because then when you complete it, you realize that you can do things that you didn't think were possible. That's how you develop this growth mindset, where you suddenly get to this point where you realize you can do almost anything. I mean, I'm not going to kid myself. If I want to become an Olympian tomorrow, I can't suddenly do it now. I'm going to be 40 next year. I've left it a bit late to have a professional athlete's career. But from a job perspective, over time, by taking on challenge after challenge and succeeding, I've got to the point where I just feel really confident in what I can do. And if you're much earlier in your career and you think, I don't feel like that, don't worry. That's normal. It's life's journey. You don't necessarily have lots of confidence when you start, but just take on little challenges. And when you succeed at something, be grateful and remind yourself, just say thank you to yourself for taking that on and for doing it, and just say, wow, okay, I'm capable. You know, when I used to get negative thoughts, I would write them down. If I thought I don't deserve this job, I shouldn't be here, I'd write it down, and then I'd go, what's the opposite of that? Actually, I'm really capable. Actually, I can contribute something positive. And every day I would have this list in my phone of my new beliefs. I still have this list. And every morning on the way to work, I'd read this list of my new beliefs, that I am really capable, that I'm going to do a good job, that people appreciate my work. And I would read this every day. And then I would go to work feeling much more confident, because that's the positive radio station. I wrote that list out so that I went into work having heard positive things, not negative things. So that's a really good way of building confidence, is look at what you're doubting yourself about, and then think about what the opposite is, and write that list out and read it every single day. So I don't know, do we have any more questions on the chat? Thank you for all your wonderful questions, by the way. I really appreciate them. So that's it. So we have no more questions. It's been wonderful speaking to you all. I hope you've enjoyed this session. As I said, add me on LinkedIn, reach out if you have any questions. I just want to leave you with this, really. Your body and your mind is such a gift. It's just so incredible that we have this. And it really can help you achieve anything you want to in life. But it's your responsibility to take care of it. And it's just like 10 minutes a day of a little power down, or spending a little bit of time planning your food, or getting in the habit of WhatsApping your friends when you're not feeling good. It takes a little bit of time, not a lot of time, and it's worth it. So I wish you all the best of luck in your careers. I wish you all very well. And thank you so much for having me.